everyone, this is Courtney from Ruby Red Farm. Today I'm going to be taking a look at the pros and cons of keeping pigs. So here at our farm, we typically raise pigs only during the warm months. We don't farrow piglets, and so we don't have any live births here at the farm. We end up purchasing weaned piglets and raising them simply as feeder pigs. We have 6 currently. We've had as many as 18 or 20 one year, and that was definitely too much for this size of an operation. So typically we do keep between about 6 to 10 pigs. We've done this 3 years now, and we've learned quite a bit along the way. So let me get right into the list. So to start with the pros of keeping pigs, one is that they're very friendly animals. Pigs in general have a pretty similar disposition found actually to dogs. They are very calm, they are very sweet. Now, when they get bigger, they certainly are dangerous in the sense that they can knock you down. I actually just got knocked down a few days ago. But from our experience, they don't do that with any bad intention. They're just excitable. So again, them being friendly is a really nice thing because animals like meat chickens, for example, aren't exactly the friendliest creatures in the world. They're kind of mean and they bite you. Another pro of keeping pigs as opposed to a different type of animal is that their fencing setup can be a lot cheaper. Now you can go through and put in standard fencing and have separate paddocks and do all of these things. But to pasture raise our pigs, the way that we do it is simply with a 2-strand of wire and removable fence posts. So for a couple years, we really actually did move those. Now we have finally gotten smart and we just keep 4 paddocks set up permanently, if you will, and simply cover 3 of the gates so that they can only get to one section at a time. But that fencing setup, compared to something like cattle or even something like goats, which are escape artists, pigs end up being a lot cheaper on the fencing side of things if you're just starting to get into homesteading. Another pro of keeping pigs is you end up getting to keep some of that pork for yourself. Now we choose to sell the majority of it, but about every other year we keep a pig for ourselves. We do all the processing on that one, so we get it to be exactly how we want. But having access to that high quality pork is another obvious pro of keeping pigs. Another pro with pigs is that they're actually pretty smart animals. So pigs are incredibly intelligent, making them very easy to train. And so when it comes to that fencing, we do run a hot wire. We run off of a solar charger. We electrify that fence. And I'll tell you what, they learn after about 2 zaps, which is a lot faster than other animals. Another nice pro to keeping pigs is that you don't need as big of a trailer to transport them. Now, when we get the baby piglets, we actually just use the back of our truck and use a dog cage because, again, we're only getting 4 to 6 at a time. We get them small enough that we can transport them that way. When we take them to the butcher, though, we do have an enclosed trailer, but it's not a large one. We could have gone quite a bit smaller with that trailer as well. And so, again, if the concern for the cost of a trailer is a barrier for you when it comes to getting animals, pigs are nice because you can get a much smaller one just to get into having animals. Another nice pro with pigs is that in theory, they can be a little bit hands off. And so you can leave for a day or 2 if you need to. Now, we still very highly recommend having somebody check on the animals for you. But you are able, once your pigs are a certain age, to just stock up on food, stock up on water, and trust the process. As far as the amount of daily chores, it really is just a twice-a-day thing. And so pigs in general are not super labor intensive while you're raising them. Now this next one could be seen either as a pro or a con depending on your perspective. Pigs in general will tear up your yard. Now, we used that to our advantage. So our pigs actually tilled our garden for us when we first started our garden, and now we use them as a nice way to aerate the soil and get that hay growing a little bit better. However, if you are either in a more residential area or if you simply like the way your field looks, pigs might not be the right option for you, because they are going to root and they are going to make quite a mess of things. Again, all about perspectives. That one can fit into either category depending on what you think about it. Another pro that some people might put more in the con pile is that when you have pigs, they end up making you a whole lot of manure. So again, it's a lot of maintenance, a lot of labor to keep that where you want it to be. However, the manure is great because we age it simply over the winter, about 6 months, and it is ready for the garden. We have noticed a huge improvement in our soil health since adding that to our operation. So we covered the good, but let's go ahead and transition over to some of the cons. Before we get there, make sure you subscribe and like this video for us. So with the cons, one of the first cons and one of the more important cons is that unfortunately pork is just not that profitable. Feed prices have gone up significantly. Our feed bill went up by about 30 or 40% compared to the very first year that we did pigs. So obviously that makes a pretty big dent into the profits. As far as our whole hogs, we end up having to sell them at what I feel like is a relatively high price, and we're still only end up making about a 10 to 15% profit margin, which doesn't cover the labor by any means. So all in all, we keep the pigs more for fun, but also just to make pork available for our customers to have one more thing that they come to us to purchase. But at the end of the day, if you are trying to start a homestead with the goal of making money, pigs will make you money, but they're not gonna make you a huge amount. You're certainly not doubling your money or anything like that. Another con when it comes to raising pork is that not everyone eats pork. And so whether that's due to religious reasons or health reasons, there's a large percentage of our country that just does not eat pork anymore. And so at times that can make it somewhat hard to sell. Now, we have not had any trouble selling ours. It's pasture raised pork, very high quality. People know us, they trust us. And so we do sell it, but I will say it sells relatively slowly once you get through those big items such as bacon and sausage patties, the things people are more used to. When you get into the bottom of the freezer, if you will, sometimes that pork can be a little bit hard to sell. Another con with keeping pigs is that if they do get out, they are really hard to get back in. So I'll never forget the day after 4th of July one year. One night of the year, we actually stayed out late as a family, stayed up super late, and then at 7 o'clock that next morning, here's our neighbor, hey, your pigs are out. Darn it. So when they do get out, occasionally they can be very, very tricky to get back in. In general, they do like to stay relatively close to home, but if you live near woods, for example, or if you just live in an area where they can find a way they want to go, it can be very tricky sometimes to get them back in. That's where training them with feed and training them to, for example, our compost bucket, that can be kind of handy to lure them back in, but man, pigs are fast, guys. Last but not least, the only other con I have for keeping pigs is that you really do have to have a place to store food and really good water access. So when it comes to the feed in particular, we have 2,500 pounds of feed brought in and they deliver it into a small hopper for us. If we didn't have that, trying to make it work with just bags from the feed store would get incredibly exhausting and it would get very expensive. We probably cut our feed cost by at least a third by getting it bulk delivered. And so if you're planning on just getting bags from the store, that little bit of profit you did have probably isn't going to happen. And so again, having a place to store feed is almost a must if you're going to have pigs. And then as I mentioned with the water, you really do need to have a decent water source. We really do not have that. And so unfortunately we have to run a hose out here or carry buckets, which as you can imagine gets pretty exhausting pretty quickly. All in all, we've really enjoyed raising our pastured pork. Despite all the cons, all those pros outweigh it for us. We really like having that fresh, locally raised pork that we know exactly how it was raised. We also love being able to provide that to our customers. If you're interested in pork, do your homework. Like I say with every other animal, make sure you know what you're getting into. We raise ours until we're about 250 to 300 pounds. So that is a large animal and you gotta know what you're doing and have your plan in place. Also, make sure you make your butcher dates before you even buy those piglets. Unfortunately, a lot of places are over 6 months out, which means you're gonna have a whole lot of pigs with nowhere to turn them into bacon. So again, make sure you're planning ahead, make sure you know what you're getting yourself into, but we absolutely love keeping our pigs. This was Courtney from Ruby Red Farm, and I hope you all have a great day.